How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Vampiress Carmilla number 13. This is for March 2023 and is classically styled black and white anthology horror. Overall, I really love this comic. It's the same people who make Shudder Magazine, which is also black and white anthology horror, and if you like one, you'll definitely like the other. As always, good stories, really classic stuff, you know, backstabbing, betrayal, classic monsters, classic tropes, reinvented in a little new way so that these stories are all pretty fresh. Now, I do want to say, this cover, lady hand reaching out of the swamp, yeah, this is the swamp issue for whatever reason. I don't know what made them decide to do a special swamp issue, but why not? Out of the 6 stories in here, 3 of them are set in the swamp, so if you guys like good swamp stories, hey, that's for you. But I do also want to say that this does kind of emphasize the reinvention thing that Shudder and Vampiress Carmilla are so good at doing. We have 3 stories that are set in the swamp, but each story is different. A good story, murder in the swamp, and then we get one that's like an old witch in the swamp, and then we get one that's talking about a mysterious woman that's found in the swamp. They're all swamp stories, but each one of them is different, and I really do like that about this magazine. Yeah, they use the same tropes we've seen for a while, but that bit of reinvention and reinterpretation, and, you know, just seeing 3 swamp stories all in here, you get the idea that they are working to change things up. As always, this magazine is incredibly consistent in its quality, and I, as always, would recommend it. If you guys want to see a little bit more about the stories, I'll show you guys a little bit of a preview for each story and a little bit of the art, but don't worry, I won't be covering any of the major spoilers. There's lots and lots of twists in this magazine, and I'll keep those quiet. Anyway, without further ado, let's switch to the close-up camera and take a look at these stories. Alright, here we are inside the castle taking a closer look at Vampiress Carmilla number 13 for March of 2023. Let's go ahead and pull this in closer to the camera. I do want to say I really do like this cover and its colors. Vampiress Carmilla in this nice blue here, and then we get this really nice blue cover in the swamp. Like I said, this is the swamp issue, with this woman holding up a candle, exploring the creepy swamp. A bit of a haunted house in the background, we barely see it there, and the hand reaching out of the water. Classic creepy stuff, you know, definitely looks old haunted house, well, haunted swamp, I guess, but still the classic woman in the white dress with the candlelight and the hand coming out of the water. So much classic stuff. This cover, credited to Vic Prezio. Anyway, on the back of the cover, we get Carmilla's Scary Tales, where she tells us about a creepy female monster, and this time, mother ghouls from pre-Islamic Arabic origins. They talk about how their mother ghouls are sometimes called ant ghouls, and we actually get a fun cameo from the other magazine, saying a good example of an ant ghoul is old Aunt Shudder from Shudder Magazine, made by the same people who made this. And we get Aunt Shudder there, standing over a coffin, and they talk about how ghouls will dig up dead bodies to eat them, and how sometimes they look like beautiful women to disguise themselves, and of course, to be careful next time you're invited to a barbecue, that it's not you that ends up getting eaten. Anyway, after that we get the table of contents pages, and we get to see the preview images there. Carmilla's Blood Letters, The Addict, Dead Man Swamp, The Vampire's Handbook, Love Me Tendril, Pistolero, Carmilla's Fan Club, and Shroud Funded. So we get to see the normal 6 stories plus blood letters, but this one here, Carmilla's Fan Club, that's new. And let's go ahead and flip to that really quick. It's at page 40, so it's pretty near the back. It'll be right before the last story. And Carmilla's Fan Club, we get an illustration of her with the bat, and we get to see some fan drawings people have sent in. Some pretty good stuff here. But it talks about how if you want to send in, I think it says a story or a picture, so you can, write out a prose story or send in an illustration. And they say that if you're part of Carmilla's Fan Club, you get first picks, but you're still eligible even if you're not part of the fan club. And they list a P.O. box or an email. So that is cool that anyone can send stuff in. So we get this, and we get a sonnet here. So that is pretty cool to see that. I think the Creeps magazine used to have that back in the day, and it's cool to see it coming back there. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of people who will just have a ton of fun drawing Carmilla. Anyway, without further ado, going into the stories. The main 6 stories I obviously won't be doing any major spoilers for. I'll protect you from the twist, but I do want to show you guys a little bit of the story, and a little bit of the art, and a little bit of my thoughts. So anyway, before the main 6 though, we have the Carmilla in the Castle section, and the Gill monster is upset that Carmilla put in a pool, but he has to share it with Bruce the Shark there. They don't name him specifically, but they say the scariest and most dangerous monster of the 1970s, but Gil isn't too happy with sharing his pool, and poor Bruce there, once again, doesn't make it. They say I wonder what Bruce did before, because it says the pool's a new addition. Maybe... because so all the monsters are supposed to be released from hell. So this, I guess, Bruce went to hell, stayed there till they made the pool, then the devil let him into the castle, and now he's dead again and back in hell. I don't know. But anyway, after that, we get the first story, the addict here, and we find this guy. He says, oh no, I can't help myself, I need the stuff. And we get these 2 people who are like, hey, we can help you fight it. And we can tell from their dialogue and their fashion choices, this story is probably supposed to be set in the 70s. And they pick him up and they drag him to the rehabilitation center they run. And they say he sees these faces of tortured dead people, and he has to work, and then they eventually will fade away and he can see again. But the rehabilitation place is all alone on the far edge of town. And of course, we know we're reading a horror comic. There's going to be some creepy twist as to what's really going on with this guy. And it is, again, a fun monster-based twist. Some of you can probably guess it, but I do like drawing comparisons between horror tropes and real-world things, and pulling out fun little twists like that, so I did think The Addict was pretty fun. After that, you get Dead Man's Swamp, and here's the cover. I do like when they redraw the cover and put it into a comic setting, so we get 2 different versions of this artwork. In the comic, still have the house, the hand is a little more over there, and, in the ink style. But we find out this guy, he lives in the swamp, and he loves to tell scary stories about the swamp. We see he has a really young wife, and even though this is a rich old man, he seems to be a good, loving husband. Usually when we get old miser characters in horror stories, they can be quite mean, but this guy does generally seem loving. So of course, it's his wife that's really mean. It's a lovely big house, Silas, but I love your money, not you. Classic Anthology stuff. There's a doctor who he asked to bring his wife into town, and we find out the 2 love each other, But the husband, despite his age, is super, super healthy, and he's not gonna die anytime soon, and any foul play would be suspicious. And they say, hey, we're gonna spread rumors about him, say he's secretly a terrible drunk, and you see how this kid's sick and he's just using it as an excuse to spread the rumor. And yeah, that did get me thinking, a doctor does have an excuse to go into all these different people's house, and he's going to be talking for a while, and might as well strike up a conversation, and he would know about the guy. But of course, they're going to murder them. Let me give you a hand, I mean a foot. And of course, we know anthology horror. Whenever you try to commit a crime like this, there's going to be some sort of supernatural twist behind it, and maybe the ghost stories about the swamp might actually be haunted. You never know. But anyway, after that, we get the Vampire's Handbook, and we get this lady that just turned into a vampire, and she's super excited about it. But we get this older vampire lady who says, hey, you need to know the rules. We have this book we give out to new vampires, the Vampire's Handbook. And she goes, nah, I know the rules, no sunlight, drink blood, yada, yada, yada. And yeah, she is just blowing through the rules. I also like we get the Nosferatu poster and the Dracula's Daughter poster in the background. Fun little Easter eggs. But anyway, the other vampire will decide to accompany her for a night on the town, and you get little things like she forgets she doesn't have a reflection anymore, and she says, hey, be subtle, you gotta not call people out, you gotta not draw attention to yourself. And she keeps trying to get her to refer to the Vampire Handbook, but of course she's not going to listen. And in an anthology horror, and really things like this in real life, she is tempting fate, and it is just a question of how the comeuppance will come at the end. A few things I do like. Mercala is the name of the club. Carmilla likes to scramble her own name up into other names. This was actually a thing that was in the original Carmilla novel, and we've seen it a few times in the comic. I forget what, but didn't she have a club in one of these stories? This book's been going on for over a year, I forget what. But also I do want to say, they fly around as bats, and she's not carrying the book, which gets me wondering with vampires. Obviously in most continuities they keep their clothes when they change back, and not all of them. I think like True Blood they didn't, but their clothes disappear, so I guess the book also disappears, and then when she turns back, it will be in her hand. So I kind of wonder just how much stuff they can take with them that they can make disappear and reappear when they change forms. That would be interesting, so I kind of wonder about that. Could they drag like a whole person, could you teleport a dead body out by turning into a bat? I don't know. But anyway, after that, we get this story, Love Me Tendril, and we get a scientist collecting samples in the swamp when he sees a woman who is barely censored, but should be enough for YouTube. He sees a woman who is passed out in the swamp, and she's also green, which he does have to say because this is a black and white comic and we can't physically tell that. But anyway, she's green, and she's unconscious, so there's something strange going on. But when he gets back to his laboratory, there'll be a mysterious man hanging out, and it turns out he's bought the whole swamp, and he's going to tear it down and build his casino. And we get this shot of him looming over his vision, a classic evil villain shot. And he says, you have to get out of here. I'm tearing down the swamp. And the scientist will explain the importance of his research. But of course, he's not going to listen to that. And I do want to say, this guy, this bald business guy, is super big and super over the top and goes way too far in some of his lines. But good to see that much of a cartoonishly evil villain. But of course, we found a green woman in the swamp. When push comes to shove, we expect a horror element. I do also want to say, he is being kicked out of his house, but I wonder how he got to the house in the first place, because even if he was renting, he should have some legal rights and more time to clear out of there. But yeah, how did he buy the swamp without the guy living in the swamp even knowing? Yeah, he should at least have renter's rights, certain amount of days to clear out and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's only a few pages. I can't question all these things in there. They're not going to slow their story down to tell us about renters. I shouldn't question it. I'm sorry. But anyway, Pistolero. And we get Carmilla, for those of you who like Carmilla dressing up in wacky costumes. I do love her fun little cowboy outfit here. The 2 guns with the 2 holsters and the little bat belt buckle and the little bat on her hat. And like I said, they do have a Carmilla fan club where you can send in your illustrations. So if you want to draw Carmilla in a bunch of wacky different costumes, there is a place for that in the magazine now. But anyway, we get the sheriff who's managed to quiet down his town, but he gets an upsetting message. It turns out this guy he sent to prison is getting out and is going to come and kill him. And he has this scene with his wife where you find out he almost didn't make it the first time. He still has a bullet right next to his heart. And he gets these lackeys for the villain showing up. And these guys say it's not just him coming back, he's also learned magic. And magic is real because your wife is a bruja, a witch woman, it elaborates. And the guy that you cross paths with, he says he's not going to just kill you, he's going to eat your soul. And of course, they're going to debate what to do about that. Overall, I really do like the build-up and anticipation leading to this guy coming in. And yeah, it is a really cool concept. He's coming back for revenge, but more powerful than he's ever been. And you really do get a bunch of build-up here. And it really is an interesting story, the way it goes, and the wife not wanting to use her the wife kind of wanting to use her witch powers, but the husband saying, no, you gave up that life. It's so many cool little things with the story. Plus, it's a cowboy story, which is always a little different, but a different spin on it, and not like all the other cowboy stories you've seen. Really, really fun. After that, we get Shroud funded, and boy, Carmilla is up to her puns here. It's not about a six-starter or an indie ghoul or even a goo daddy. Yeah, no, it's about mysterious mayhem, Shroud funded. And we find out they're in the swamp. This is the 3rd swamp story. Haunted swamp, swim at your own risk. And we find this girl and this guy having a fight. It turns out the girl came with him to give him a chance, but she's not really romantically interested in this guy. She's just going on a first date to see what she thinks, which, yeah, that should be fine, except for this guy is obsessive, and yeah, he is definitely in a bad place there, and when she says she's not super into him, he's going to flip out. Yeah, not a good situation to be in. But he realizes, oh man, I've murdered someone, and I really did like her. So he's upset, and he goes, hey, why this place is called the Haunted Swamp is because a witch lives here, and he tells the witch, hey, can you do 2 things for me? I want her brought back to life, and I want a love spell so she falls for me. And the witch says, that'll be $1,000, and he doesn't have that kind of money, but the witch says, I can preserve her for a month if you have a month to give me this money. and he works as a cashier at a 7-Eleven-like place, and he's like, I don't know if I can get that in a month. And I really do like they really did pick the right amount of money, you know. $1,000 is significant, but it's something that you should be able to earn in a month, but, you know, darn inflation and all that. Yeah, it is kind of, you know, really does point out a real-world sucky thing that this poor cashier can't get $1,000 given a whole month, you know. But I do also like the storefront, a bunch of little gags. Addictive vape plus smoke. Open 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., which where 7-Eleven originally got his name. Heat lamp food and coffee, 99 cents, but the coffee is in quotation marks. So a fun little panel right there. And of course, this is going to lead in supernatural gimmicks here. So it does have a fun ending as well. So overall, a pretty fun issue. 3 stories set in the swamp, you know, the murdering the husband at the swamp, finding the green woman in the swamp, and then murdering your girlfriend and having to see the swamp witch. So very different stories, all set in the swamp. So half this issue is a sort of swamp spectacular. You know, I would be curious. I'd like to see the variety of the stories. So I wouldn't want to see every episode have a theme, but every now and then, you know, give us, you know, this isn't 100% a swamp special, but if every now and then, like say once or twice a year, they were to give us a sort of special issue like this, I would really love to see like a space special, you know, being a big fan of Alien, that would be cool. But I could totally see them doing more special issues like this, but I'd be curious to see what you guys think of doing one theme for half the issue, but also exploring that theme and making it different. Overall, as always, I really love this magazine. Good to see another issue of it, and really nice cover too. I always gotta compliment the covers. They usually look really nice. This one, such classic horror and such nice blue. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. And to everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Creeps/Carmilla/Shudder playlist, where I've talked about a lot of the past issues of those magazines. I should have all the Shudder and all the Carmillas reviewed in there. The Creeps came out a long time ago before I started doing all this, I believe, so not all of the Creeps, but all of the other 2 magazines up to this point should be in there. My reviews for them, rather. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.